Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to Table Tennis Chats. This week, I've got a bit of a blast from the past for myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Mark. I'm a table tennis player and coach from Keynesian. And tonight, I've got Gareth with me. So, Gareth, you want to give a little introduction?
Hi, folks. I'm Gareth. I used to play table tennis with Mark a long time ago when we were both younger. And I think it's because of that we're having this chat this evening.
Well, yeah, basically, I just wanted to kind of find out a bit more about how you first picked up a bat, Gareth. So, yeah, over to you.
Sure. Well, so I come from a kind of family where sport was really kind of what we did. It was a big interest for our family. Both my parents were into sport, football and tennis and cricket and all that kind of stuff. So everything we did sort of revolved around sport really in some way. And both of my parents were keen table tennis players. So I remember as a kid, my dad being out sometimes 3 nights a week playing table tennis. So in different leagues in the West Country and various kind of competitions. I know when he was younger, he used to kind of, I don't think he got very far, but he used to kind of play like ranking tournaments and stuff and kind of, like West of England kind of open tournaments and things like that. So that was kind of big, really. And my mum also played, not quite as much as my dad, but she also played a lot. She'd be out at least once a week playing a table tennis match. And they were both really heavily involved in the organisation of the kind of the local table tennis league. I think it might have been the Bath and District Table Tennis League. And they were both involved in organising that, like administrating that. They would have committee meetings, and I remember, strangely, one of the highlights of my year as a kid was the Bath tournament, and there'll be a tournament at the sports centre in Bath, a big table tennis tournament, and there'll be like 10 table tennis tables all the way down through the main hall. And basically, me and my sister who was a couple of years younger than me, would basically just have free reign of the sports centre all day. And we always used to go home really late at night, and it was always kind of felt like a really exciting kind of day. So yeah, from a young, my dad used to make table tennis bats as well. That's the other thing.
Oh,
All these
wow.
things are coming back to me now that I'd
Yeah.
forgotten. So my dad would be like, he would people would order the rubbers that go on the bats, and they'd order the different bats, or they would bring the bats to him for repair and to be re-rubbered, or whatever the term is. And so there was always something to do with table tennis going on in and around our house. So therefore it was kind of just natural, even perhaps even expected, that I would have some interest and involvement in it as I grew up, really.
So what sort of age were you when you started playing table tennis then, as a kid, assumingly?
Yeah, a little bit with my mum and dad every now and again when we were kids, but mainly I guess in my early secondary school years is when I started to get, I could be wrong, but I think that's when it probably was, maybe 11 or 12. And that kind of, whether it was just the fact that I'd shown an interest and my sister was less interested, but kind of just got brought along, whether that meant that my parents got into kind of coaching because that was a way to spend time with us, etc., or whether they happened to get into coaching and then we just went along. I don't know which went first. But yeah, my mum, again, with my mum particularly, my dad a little bit, but my mum particularly got into kind of coaching and used to run a kind of coaching session on I think a Thursday evening at Oldfield H Sports Centre in Bath.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I think then for most of my kind of middle teenage years, I would have been at that and involved in that. But I would say like 11 or 12 when I first kind of started out.
Yeah, and so your first table tennis club then was, I don't know what we used to call it back then, Bath Juniors Club or Culver Hay Club, but that was your first sort of club of table tennis then.
Yeah, and that was more like coaching session with occasional kind of like into kind of session games, wasn't it? And matches. So in though I don't know whether they went on to have a team themselves that competed.
I think,
I can't remember, but certainly
yeah,
when I was there, they didn't. But I don't think kind of just more of a coaching session. And then every now and again, there'd be a kind of a tournament where different people would play each other from within it. There was there was another kind of like advanced session that took place on Sundays every now and again, but that was fairly kind of like short lived, I think. And I was in that mainly, I think, because of my age rather than ability. I mean, I remember being, it's a bit like being a big fish in a small pool. So in that Oldfield H club, for my age group and people I was playing with, I was one of the better ones. But actually, in the kind of wider world of table tennis, I was rank average, if that, at best, really. But as a teenager, when you're kind of a bit insecure and you're trying to kind of make your mark, you quite like being kind of like important or the best of even a smaller group of people, I guess.
yeah, because I remember my first ever table tennis trophy was at the sort of Bath Junior Club, up at Corbehay, and it was in the handicap singles competition, and I think I'd beat, quite a few people to get there, and it was you in the final, and obviously we've got about a 3 or 4 year age gap between us, so you were the older
Yeah.
one, and yeah, I just couldn't get anything back that you put at me. That was back in 1998, I think it was. Yeah,
Wow.
aye.
So wow, I would have been 16 then. Did I win or did you win?
Oh, you won, yeah.
I won. Oh, of course, of course. Oh, wow. Well, this is turning into a great conversation. It's like stroking my ego. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And so, like you kind of touched on your memories of the club. Yeah, and I think there was a league team. I remember we used to have to play our games before 9 o'clock or something, and all the teams had to come to us. So what did you do after that club? Because you mentioned you're about 16 when we played that sort of first competition, if you like, that I could remember. Did you go on anywhere else and play bits and
Yeah.
pieces after that?
Yeah, I did. So I think then around about that time, it was, I think maybe from the age of about 15 or so, I would have been playing for another club in the Bath District League, like on a separate night, and then going to the coaching as well. Because I don't think I ever played for the Bath Juniors as a team. So I'm just trying to remember all these different dates. Really, they all kind of merge into one. And my best mate at school at the time was a guy called Ian Woolley, and him and I played in a team together, and we would have been, I don't know, year 9, year 10 sort of age. So um, and and then sort of once we got towards year 11 and we're getting older, that kind of just sort of fizzled out a bit. We might have played in year 11 as well, so that would have been up to the age of kind of 16. So for 2 or 3 years we were playing in a sort of the bottom division of a league team, and I remember the first year we played in the whatever division it was, the bottom one, and we had this wonderful old guy, a guy called George Every, I think his name was, and he was, even then he was in his mid-90s, and it was hilarious, really. It's two kind of like 14, 15-year-old kids knocking around with him. It was something to behold. And I remember once we crashed our car quite badly out by the what used to be the MOD base at Cologne.
Okay.
One night really badly crashed our car, and he just, anyway, by the by, he's dead now. This guy, not because of the accident, but just because he's got old. And but we had some great times. I remember the first year we played, and we used to play at the Scout Hut or the nursery in Western High Street,
Ah, yeah.
and we'd play in there. And the first year we won a few games in the whole season, but more or less came second or third bottom. And then the next year we were like second from the top. And I remember thinking that how interesting that was. That it's a bit like football team kind of scrapes staying up in the division, and then actually the next year they really take off because it's kind of the same team and they gel and stuff, and it was good fun. Yeah, we had some good times. Yeah.
No, I remember playing in the same team with you when I was, I don't know what age I was, maybe year 10 myself. So when I got a bit older, and it was me, you, a chap called Tim from my year, and then one of your mates, possibly a chap called Chris. I want to say, I'm not too sure on the name. We're going back all these years, but there might have been five of us. I'm not sure, but we used to rotate a little bit. Yeah.
Sure. So yeah, okay. So I don't know when that was. I mean, yeah, I went to, I kind of left home when I was 18 and then came back to college in Bristol when I was 20 and started to play a little bit while I was at college. So that might have been that kind of time. I don't
Yeah,
know.
the years would have synced up then. Yeah, I would have been
Yeah,
about
yeah.
16. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so that, yeah, then so I could have played a bit then, and by then I was just playing kind of for Oldfield Park, and it was an Oldfield Park began in Oldfield Park, but I always used to think I remember this as a child. Used to think it was ridiculous that the Oldfield Park table tennis team played in Monkton Combe. It was just an anomaly, but and actually that's one of those really weird things. I remember going down all the lanes, the country lanes to Monkton Combe and back. I mean, that's just one of those weird memories from childhood that yeah. And I used to love driving up them late at night because they were really great fun when you're a kind of carefree young driver that should know better. But yeah, we used to play down at Monkton Combe, and so I did that maybe for 1 or 2 years, and then I moved to Gloucester, and I think at that point it just became, I might have played a few times then, but it just became too difficult to kind of commute down to Bath for evening matches and stuff. And more or less that was the kind of end of it, really.
Well, yeah, I was going to come on to that. Yeah, I'll talk about a little bit about the influence of your mum and dad then, as well. So, I mean, like you say, it was quite a sporty background. I know we see your dad down at football quite a lot down at Bath City, and bits and pieces like this. Were they sort of was it yourself kind of getting into table tennis, or was it them as the main driver sort of thing?
I think that I was interested because it was so much a part of their life. Now I enjoyed it myself, and I never felt any pressure or coercion from them. But because it was something that they did and was talked about and was part of their life, I think I just kind of naturally gravitated into it. And yeah, and I enjoyed it. So I mean, I'm football mad, really. I love football, love cricket, but I wasn't either any good at either of them, and was never ever going to play to any decent standard. Table tennis, I could about hold my own, and so therefore it had a bit more of kind of enjoyment. It was a bit more of a niche kind of sport as well, and so yeah, maybe there was a smaller talent pool to draw from. But I used to love as well. I mean, I used to really love. So my dad's style of play was to be very defensive. So he would. I remember again watching him as a child. He would go right like back against the wall, and get all sorts of things kind of back on the table. And I used to love that sense of. I mean, it wasn't like he wasn't doing it for show, like an exhibition, but that's what it looked like, and it just looked so much fun. And I used to absolutely love doing that myself. And because I was playing in a much lower level of players compared to what my dad was doing, I would find it often be playing people, and I could predict very easily where they were going to hit the ball. And so I don't think this was conscious, but I just managed to develop a skill where I could anticipate where they're going to hit it, stand far back and kind of loop it back and make it look really good. But actually, it was just blatantly obvious by the angle of their body where they were going to hit it. So it was just anticipation, really. And yeah, no, I think I got into it just because it was something that was interesting in our house. I think if I really wanted to go further with it, my parents would have put the effort in. But I, through my teenage years, never really had the inclination to put any effort into anything at all. So so table tennis just was another thing of mediocrity that I didn't achieve what I should have done. So
Yeah, that's quite an interesting self observation there. Yeah, okay. Um, and so, kind of, it's always been, an enjoyable, like you say, a niche sort of hobby or sport, or what have you, with you. So when you got into your sort of early 20s then and moved away to Gloucester, wasn't it?
Mm.
So did you not kind of try and seek out a club there, or was it kind of you had too much else on in your going on in your life?
Yeah, so in Gloucester, no, I didn't. I was only lived there for 2 years, and I knew that was going to be an intense period, work-wise and study-wise. So I was studying part-time, working part-time, and that was the kind of program I was on. And I knew that that was just going to be too difficult. And then when we moved, then I got married and moved to Burnley. That's when I did try and seek out playing again, and it just didn't come off. So I just tried 2 or 3 times, and it just never worked out. So and I think in the end I just gave up trying. Really, I did think to myself that when we moved from there, which was it is now 7 years ago that we left there, that I would try and take it up again, and never got round to it. In my next job in Derby, it was just too full on. We had young kids by then, and just life was busy. And yeah, and I've been in Plymouth now for 2 years and not made any effort either. Again, it's very much kind of like life is too busy, but it is something that I every now and again think that would be really good to do, and it's just a good way of meeting people and widening the circle of friends, really. And without we go into this as much as you want, really, but so I'm a vicar basically, and I can end up, if I'm not careful, living in a kind of goldfish bowl of kind of church life, and the only contact I have with people outside of that is when I'm doing things for them, like marrying them or burying them or whatever. And so to ensure that I've got a good connection of friends who are outside of that world is really important for me. So I think that's one of the reasons why I love watching football so much, because just normal people and talking about normal things, and that's just nice every now and again. Just to not be thinking about big things. And so it's kind of one of those things where I think, I really ought to kind of do that now. And our kids are a little bit older, we have no plans of anymore, and the idea of being out a little bit more in the evenings is not too bad. And actually the lockdown thing has made a lot of people I work with realize that we don't want to be having loads and loads of evening engagements all the time. So that might free me up a bit more in the future.
Yeah, so I think that's key, because a lot of the sort of church venues as well. We go on to your sort of job a little bit of what you're doing now, but there are a lot of church halls and halls associated to churches, etc., and room for tables and play. I don't know what your trying to think of the word in now. I'm not too religious myself anymore, but your sort of church or flock, if you like, I don't know how to word that, but is there any sort of interest in and around your immediate local community for that sort of thing?
Um, the answer is I don't know. I don't know at all. So in my last job in Derby, there was a kind of like my last church there was a kind of like a youth club for pensioners. And so there would be 8 of them that would play table tennis for 2 hours every Tuesday morning. And this is going to sound very sexist, but it was just a true depiction. Their wives would go and sit in the corner talking or doing jigsaws, whatever, and the men were the ones who would play table tennis. And every now and again, I would join in with them, and that's about as much as I picked up a bat really in the last 15 years. And that was good fun. Now, so there were some people that had some sort of residue interest, but they were of the generation where everyone played table tennis at youth clubs. In fact, I think that's how my parents actually met. Is that my dad started playing table tennis at youth club at a Baptist church in Bath. I mean, he's got no sort of religious affiliation at all, but just went to play table tennis at that youth club. And I think it was through that my mum and him met, because everyone played table tennis in their youth clubs. That was kind of what happened. So, but here, no. I mean, ironically, we have a massive kind of complex in the middle of Plymouth. That's where we are, and it's a huge, great building, 600-seater congregation, and I think I saw a folded up table tennis table somewhere hidden away down some corridor somewhere. But yeah, it has not, to my knowledge, ever been used in the 2 years I've been here, and there have not noticed any kind of interest from anybody. It's never really come up in conversation. Yeah, so that's just an interesting thing. But I mean, I'm just thinking about how we support and reach kind of older people in what we do, because we have a load of stuff goes on for kind of like young families and kids, but nothing overly entertaining for kind of over 60s, whatever. And I have been thinking of maybe table tennis might have a part to play in that, which would be interesting and crazy if it all came around to that, really.
Yeah, I can already picture it now. You going down that little corridor when you saw it when you go back to church, Sunday, or when it's open again, and sort of seeing what the standard's like, bouncing a few balls. Yeah, I can already picture that in my mind. So
well, when I go into my office tomorrow, I'm going to check that out where it is. That is my first job tomorrow morning. I want to work out where that table is that I've seen it.
Excellent. But I mean, that you kind of touched on it there with the amount of different people that you see in your everyday life. Be it from your mums and young children through to pensioners and through to working people as well, working age. And that's something that the sport can reach, everybody, and bring people together, like you say, to make friends, to make people outside of their usual social circles. I mean, what else do you think can be done on that sort of social level to help bring people together? If you've had any sort of thoughts on that, really.
Well, that's a massive question, isn't it? I mean, I do think, just kind of my first reflection is, I do think that so much more could be done to promote the sport of table tennis. I guess that's down to funding, and maybe that there needs to be a kind of a bit of a culture change as well, in terms of, certainly all of my experience has been playing in an evening, starting at 7:30, whatever. And I remember from playing myself and when my parents played, that sometimes get home at like 11 after you've played your, 9 matches and doubles and all this kind of stuff. And whether that is a model that people want to buy into anymore is another question. But for a lot of people, certainly if you're young retired, you've got plenty of time in the day, regardless of the evenings. So maybe there is some scope to do that. But also the idea of selling table tennis as a way to socially interact with people, to get some good cardio kind of fitness going, to improve your mental health and well-being. I mean, it's just non-existent, isn't it? I mean, I do think the kind of the ETTA or whoever it is that run table tennis these days are somehow missing a trick there. Because a lot of the kind of smaller sports have seen a real upturn in popularity in recent years, but I don't see that with table tennis. In fact, I think I glanced at one of your pieces maybe that you'd done online about, I mean, it's ages ago, about table tennis league in Bath, and it were down to 2 divisions or 3 divisions or something.
Yeah,
so that just shows, the reduction, and surely there must be scope for development. But in terms of bringing people together, I mean, I think that the common interest is the key. So whether that is, gardening, whether it's walking, whether it's eating, whether it's, cookery, whether it's IT lessons, common interest is the key. But I just generally think that we, as all human beings, and this isn't a judgmental thing, I see it myself, that we're less and less equipped, all of us, to make new relationships. I think that I think people are less inclined to go to groups or join in with things than perhaps have ever been before, because there's that kind of nervousness. Now, obviously, when people get to know one another, it picks up and takes on, and there we go. But anything that brings people, I mean, the walking football is a great example, isn't it? That I mean, I saw that at Bath City, the people getting together and joining in, and I saw something on Points West or something when I was back in Bath once, and people that had talked about coming along. They were a bit nervous about what it was going to be, but because it was walking, they thought they could do it. There was a sense of camaraderie and community, and they were, going for lunch afterwards. And I just think that anything like that has got to be a good thing. I mean, I do have to say as well that I think communities of faith have got a key role to play in that, because that kind of message of kind of unity, of companionship, and of hope is a message that society needs to hear. And I do think that. And the other thing is that places like churches and other religious buildings have got empty space. Most of the week. I mean, we're a building that's used 7 days a week in normal time, but most of the churches I've had have been used for a couple of hours a week, yet have had prime locations. And so, there's community space that needs to be used, and particularly in times of austerity and things like that. Having that land available, that space available, and facilities available to be used for kind of community use is a real opportunity, I think.
Yeah, I guess the major pull that most religions have is, like you say, the building space that isn't being used, and you've already got a congregation. That's the right word for it, not flock. Yeah. Congregation. So as the ready-made audience already, despite that's only looking at a small proportion of what you can reach. You can reach the whole town as well with your visibility and where you are. So yeah, I mean, I've kind of set up Keynesian Table Tennis Club. And I've noticed that when I first set it up, there was a group of about 8 teenagers that used to mess about, be a bit rowdy, and then you'd get people in their 70s, 80s come in, and people in between. And as soon as you sort of laid down, speaking, man to man or woman to woman, if you like, what you wanted to kind of achieve and get going on, and that everybody would gain the same respect as everybody else, then the teenagers calmed down. The older people started chatting to the teenagers more, and now sort of 2-3 years down the line, you've got a quite harmonious group of people who would have never met anywhere else.
That's right. And I think those spaces, Mark, where the generations interact, again, that's rare. Now that so sports clubs maybe are places, maybe again, football terraces, rugby crowds, whatever, cricket crowds, and sporting clubs. Faith-based communities, maybe kind of like amateur dramatics, maybe, but actually those places where pensioners and teenagers are interacting and people in between, they're rare. Because we often just assimilate into our own little compartments. I know that's what I do.
Yeah, I think it's also different from when we were sort of growing up, if you like. It makes us sound really old now, but when we were growing up, there was no Facebook, no Twitter, no Instagram, all of these bits and pieces. I mean, I think that's had a massive impact on people's instant gratification, and the need to get one up on somebody else, and the need to be noticed. So I think that there's very big plus and very big minuses to that rise of social media, and you must have seen it in sort of the church industry as well. Things right and wrong. On those things.
Yeah, for good and bad. Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, because that goes back to advertising as well, because people want to be seen to be going, like you say, you wouldn't just walk into, if I wanted to start playing tennis tomorrow, I wouldn't walk into Lansdowne Tennis Club, for instance, and go, hi there, I'm here to play tennis, because it's not the thing you do. If you see, though, a video on social media of people playing tennis, and then you see that they have a social night, and then you see that people have left reviews, then you're more likely sort of to come. So it's a bit of a difficult thing. And like I kind of go back to the venue and the ready-made congregation of religious buildings. You've already got a trusted blue tick next to your organization, your name, if you like, that people know and can come to you and enjoy themselves and be part of a wider community and a wider being. So I think especially the venue hire as well, it ticks a lot of boxes for table tennis to get played in those sorts of areas, especially if you add in the media with that to get it going on yourself. I mean, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So kind of that was all of my questions really. It's kind of so I kind of just wanted to see whether you had any questions for me or bits and pieces like this really.
Well, yeah, I'm curious. So because there used to be a team that played at Keynesham, and you set up Keynesham Table Tennis Club. Is there any relation between the two? Are you?
Yeah, so it's Key Centre is
Yeah,
part of the Methodist Church in High Street. You've got the you can remember it, the very 1980s style building behind,
yeah, yeah,
the lovely
yeah.
sort of neon sign, if you like.
Yeah.
So yeah, they still play there in a two-table venue. I've been part of that team, the B team, for the last 7 years, maybe something like this, since I moved to Keynsham, really.
Yeah.
And so what I did, I spoke a lot with Ken Milson, who's the chairman. Keep
Okay.
mentioning every show I do, actually. Very influential bloke in my life. But yeah, Ken was more than happy to accommodate some of our social players into a team. So we set up, for the first time ever, a C team for Key Centre. So
Great.
we've had two young 16-year-old lads join that team last
Brilliant.
year, and they both did very, very well. It's like
Right.
you kind of said in the league, it takes some time to settle, but because it's a kind of older generation play in the league, sometimes when you get sort of fresh-faced youths coming into it, if you like, very attacking style, they can certainly do well.
Yeah.
They picked up some great results, actually.
Right.
You mentioned, it was your friend earlier, Ian Woolley, was it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, his dad, Nigel Woolley,
Yeah.
plays in the same team as my dad.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the 16-year-olds
My
beat
dad's still
Nigel
playing.
through. Yeah, one of the
Well,
16-year-olds beat him 3 straight sets, and I was like,
all
wow,
right.
that's a
Great.
amazing
Great.
result. Yeah,
Great. Well, your dad must be ancient, but like mine.
yeah. My dad's he celebrated his 72nd or third
Oh,
birthday. Yeah, recently. But
great.
yeah, very very tricky, unorthodox left-hander.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think I ever played him. Don't think he was too high up the leagues for me.
yeah. He was a step above me for many years, and yeah, luckily then I met him in Div 1, beat him, and then
Okay.
he went down.
Excellent.
Luckily, yeah, and I
Excellent.
stayed where I was.
Good. Good. That's very important.
Yeah.
Very. Yeah. So that's good. I mean, and I mean, is it? These are lame questions, but I mean, is it still the same format? Evenings, weekday evenings? Is that the format?
Yeah, you had it spot on. Yeah, 7:30 start in the evenings. Yeah, Monday through to Friday, different nights of the week. Oldfield still play at Moncton Combe, still play at 7:30 on a
Yeah.
Thursday. But yeah, so it's exactly the same format. The only thing that's different from when you played was the rule changes and the ball as well, surprisingly. So we used to play with the slightly bigger ball, and they made it a little
Yeah.
bit smaller. Um, sorry, no, they made it a little bit bigger. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
forgetting my memory now.
Yeah.
And then yeah, the rule change from up to 21 to up to 11 now, best of
Yeah,
5.
I hated that. And I used to love playing 3 to 21 because I was the king of the comeback. So yeah, the amount of times I'd be like 17-10 down and come back to win. Um, I hate and you get five serves, you can get into some rhythm. So I only played a couple of seasons with the um, best of 5 to 11, and you can't get into it. That's just my experience. You're probably now really used to it, and it's just natural. But
Yeah,
yeah, but,
yeah, no, it is good. I mean, I think just thinking out loud again, I think Plymouth's actually got quite a big table tennis scene down there. I know that they have some, like sort of 1 and 2 star events, like tournament
okay.
type things down there. So yeah,
Well,
interesting place,
you want to check it out.
definitely. Yeah. But yeah, I think that was just about it. I mean, the interesting kind of thing was the more hectic world that we've come into now, especially with COVID and everything that's happening in the world at the minute. I mean, have you got any thoughts or message to spread?
Well,
To do with that, really. Bit off the cuff
yeah,
question,
yeah.
but
Well, no. I'll happily come to that in a moment. I was that just made me think. What are the regulations at the minute for playing table tennis? So, I mean, because you can remain distant, but you've got to handle the ball to serve, haven't you? So, I mean, but there's lots of other sports like cricket, for instance, and tennis where you also have to handle the ball. So, is table tennis permitted at the minute? Is it? What's the kind of new guidance? Do you know?
yeah, it's tricky. It changes every few weeks at the minute from TT Table Tennis England. But I think league play officially can start again on the 1st of September if you've got the venue, which it all boils back down to that venue. So obviously a lot of table tennis clubs are only sort of one table venues, like Moncton Combe. So if the village hall or the church or the school isn't willing to hire the venue because of
Right.
the fear of the virus or the cleaning regulations or strange people on site out of hours type thing. It's kind of very difficult to monitor, and it all boils down to those volunteers then picking up the extra bits of cleaning and bits and pieces like this. But yeah, officially, table tennis, because gyms can open now, table tennis can start again inside, in your small, what do they call it, cluster groups or groups of 6, what have you. I think you've got to be a certain distance apart. I know that gyms is sort of 5 meters. I'm not sure exactly what the rule is on table tennis, but yeah, it can start again. It's just realistically, I think we'd be too ambitious to say, yeah, we're going to start again in September, October, November. So for me personally, I don't think the league's going to start until the new year. And I think that's pretty much the same for my club. Being part of like a community centre, they're quite rightly sort of prioritising their gym members who bring in monthly recurring revenue. Because as we've alluded to, table tennis is a sort of minority sport, if you like, very under the radar sport, niche. So yeah, kind of the finances of running a club don't weigh up to some of the other things that they can rent out in that room or that space. Yeah, difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult, and I think, to then come on to the kind of pandemic thing, I think that there are just 2 things that I would say into that, really, as a kind of community leader and faith leader. That number one, it's okay not to be okay, and I think that even within our church congregation, I keep having to remind people that just because we are Christians and follow Jesus, whatever, it doesn't mean that we have to have everything sorted, or pretend we've got everything sorted. It's all right to say I'm struggling, I'm fed up, I'm depressed, I'm whatever, and actually, in terms of our mental well-being, acknowledging those things and kind of accepting them is part of improving our well-being anyway. And so that sense of it's all right not to be all right, and don't struggle to pretend to be all right if you're not. And there are plenty of people out there that can give you help, whether it's in an informal basis or a professional basis, if you're not all right. And I think that actually, as the lockdown kind of goes on, or lockdown's easing, but as the virus kind of goes on, the fact that there isn't like an end date, we don't all know that come the 1st of October it's all going to be gone. That's really hard, because there's very little things to look forward to. So people often might look forward to a holiday, or they might look forward to the grandchildren coming, or they might look forward to something, and all of that is
table tennis.
Yeah, well, yeah, completely. So a huge thing for me is I look forward to the start of the football season. Now, it's kind of set, at the level that I'm interested in, at kind of October the 3rd, I think. But you just don't. But in the back of your head, you just don't know what the autumn is going to be like and whether that will get extended. And so I think that sense of you can't fix your gaze or something certain is really unhelpful for people, and it's no one's fault. It's just the reality. So it's okay not to be okay. But then conversely, is that actually thankfulness and gratefulness and gratitude is often an antidote to feeling low and not okay. And for some people, their circumstances will mean it is really hard to point out things to be grateful for. And I recognise that. I live in a nice house. I live in a beautiful city. I've got, the countryside one side, the coast the other. I've got lovely, there's loads of things I can be grateful for. But actually finding those things, focusing on them, and being grateful, whether that is to God or just be grateful to the universe, that I think is really, really important. And that might be something as simple as a bird song, as flowers in the neighbour's garden, ducks on the river, your favourite comedy coming back on TV, whatever, the little things, and finding those things and being grateful for them, or individuals that are precious to you, parents, partners, children, I think that's really important as well. And so it's kind of about really acknowledging what's going on for us. Whether it's okay not to be okay, but somebody once said, try and have an attitude of gratitude. And I think it's a bit cringy, but it I think is potentially helpful.
Yeah, I mean, my big shift in my mindset during this pandemic and lockdown. I mean, I was furloughed very early on 1st of April, and I just thought to myself that I can only control the controllables. So I can't
Yeah,
control that there's a pandemic. I can't control what my boss, is doing at the moment or how the business is doing. What I can control though is getting up in the morning. I can control trying to shave as best as I can. I can control my diet, eating right, going for a walk or for the 1 hour of exercise that you can do, sort of thing. So there's lots of things you can control in the day and in your life. That's why I kind of wanted to start this YouTube channel and get interesting guests, obviously like yourself, and other people that have been on, just to kind of talk about something we can look forward to, be it table tennis and be it wider, the kind of issues that we've explored on here, finding out about people. Everyone's got a story to share.
yeah,
I was quite apprehensive recently about kind of getting the bit of success I've had so far on here with, 30 odd people watching each time. And, I got invited onto a table tennis show, and ordinarily that'd be great, for an outgoing, young man, it'd be great to go and speak about table tennis on there. But when it got down to it, I sat in front of the same laptop in the same space, and I thought to
yeah,
myself, hold on, the guests on this panel show are legitimate guests. They're all, they all mean to be here. They've all had this expert bit in table tennis. But I thought, actually, no, because I'm just trying to share my story. I don't try and speak about what I can't speak about, what I haven't experienced. I speak about it hopefully in an engaging way that people want to, click the like button and subscribe and all of that stuff. I had to plug it early, see, and do all that stuff, because it kind of helps share my little piece of the world to everybody else. Similarly, I'm not on a big mission, like yourself almost, if you like, to kind of share anything bigger than that. But I think everybody's got that story they can share, and everybody
yeah.
can control certain elements of who they are and what they want to be. And if you don't do it, then what's the alternative? You're not doing anything. So that was kind of my
Yeah.
thought process all the way through these last few months, really.
Yeah, I think that's really wise, and certainly yeah, really wise. And the control of the controllable thing, that's just good. That's good wisdom for life, isn't it? Because
Mm.
I won't go into it now, but just the last few weeks under a lot of kind of pressure work-wise, and a lot of that is because I'm freaking out about stuff that actually I can't influence, and so yeah, focusing on the things that you can influence for good and being reasonable about that is just sound advice. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, listen to him. Yeah,
Cheers. No, that means a lot. But no, I think that's about it for today. I mean, like I said, the one thing I hope you do tomorrow, whenever you can get back into the church, is find that magic corridor somewhere and uh, dust off that table.
yeah,
And then, yeah, hopefully, then when you're next back up in the southwest and the Bath area, that you can come up and we can, yeah, have a little game in a church hall, or hopefully
yeah,
somewhere
yeah.
more public in a nice outside table, something like that.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that. That'd
Yeah,
be good.
finally
That'd be really
relive 1998 and get my revenge.
good. Yeah, you stopped me, I think. Yeah.
Well, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe. But no, thank you very much, Gareth, for coming on. Thank you guys for watching this. I know it's hard at the moment for everybody, but hopefully you've enjoyed the ramblings that we've both had, and my tongue twisted tiredness that I've been trying to get my words out all day, as you can see. But no, appreciate you guys watching. If you can, like, subscribe, leave a comment. If you want to reach out to me or Gareth, he doesn't know this yet, but I'm sure he's more than welcome to do so. He's also got some of his thoughts and more religious aspects. I'm not trying to push that onto anybody out there, but I'll leave a link to his channel down in the description as well, so you can follow what Gareth does as well there. But no, appreciate that, guys. I've been Mark, as always. Gareth, thank you very much. That's all the
Pleasure,
best.
mate.
Thank you.